G'day. Serious topic today. Emotional betrayal. Now, we are social beings. We can have contentment within ourselves as individuals, but we only find happiness in relationship with other people. And for those people who suffer significant emotional betrayal, that undermines the capacity for trust. And that gets in the way of forming relationships with other people. Now, I think a lot of people have suffered emotional betrayal, significant emotional betrayal. And in meditation, that's the sort of thing that you are well served if you can find the emotions connected to that and expose them, bring them to the surface, and integrate those experiences so that you're no longer a victim of these things. Now that's possible. It's possible to overcome those things in exactly the same way as it's possible to overcome trauma. But it does require a willingness to fully expose yourself to how you feel. You see, in the schoolyard, we form groups. There are those in the group, those out the group. So that's another way that people's self-esteem can be damaged. And when your self-esteem is low, that also makes it hard to form relationships. Now, you can live a solitary life, and some people do, and you can find an equilibrium within yourself. You can be content, but it's not happy, because it's in our being to be social. That's what we are. We're a social being, and we don't have a fulfilled life or sense of fulfillment when that's missing. Now, I'm advocating that the key to peace of mind is through understanding your emotional state, finding and having a vivid emotional life experience. Now, if you've unfortunately been undermined in those ways, what tends to happen? You become very self-protective. You shut down a little bit, especially if you've been repeatedly emotionally hurt. You'll retreat, and you'll also adopt coping strategies, because it can be an ongoing pain, and you'll adopt ways and means of not feeling that pain. Now, it doesn't have to be some kind of thing like drugs or something like that. It can be, obsessive behaviour where you do obtain some level of self-esteem in a limited way. Competition, some extreme, developing some special skill where you can be accepted because of your abilities. But these, as pleasant as those things might be, they're just coping strategies, and they're not 100% wholesome. perhaps if I give my personal experience, when I was a young boy, I was an oppressed individual. I discovered I could play chess, and I became a tournament chess player, and found a social group. But there was an edge to it, very competitive. Winning was important because if you were a loser, the social group would designate you in chess parlance as a wood pusher. So you didn't want to be that. Now, okay, there's some compensation in that, but it's not a happy experience because there are people inside and outside of your group. You're cutting yourself off to some degree when you do that from humanity at large. Why not be friends with everybody? So, the emotional betrayal can take very subtle forms as well. It can happen, you can be smothered in love by your parents, for instance. Well, that's all right when you're very young, but as you grow, you want to find your own independent self and assert that. And if that's not allowed to happen, then you're going to be repressed as an individual. You've got to be the little boy or little girl that your parents love. There's a lot of subtle ways that your self-esteem can be undermined, and these things become the way you approach life. The sorts of relationships you form, sorts of people that you become associated with. Things go awry very easily. You see, classic example, young lovers. All right, there's a period called limerence where they found love. The world's a wonderful place. They bond. They live together, possibly marry. Okay. A lot of marriages these days end up in bitter divorce. Now, there's a process that's going on. So, you see, married couples that are divorcing, it's a classic in our society that there's recrimination, revenge taking even. Now, there's a situation where if people need you, they still need, it's a need that we have that's inbuilt. We can't escape it. We need each other, just as, it's built in. You can't deny it. So in a relationship that breaks down, that ends in recrimination, typically one or both of the partners are going to feel that the other partner has betrayed them in some way, emotionally lied to them, cheated on them, ignored them, took them for granted, and that's where the lawyers make a lot of money, because the response to that situation is, I'm going to take him, or I'm going to take her for all I can get. I'm going to keep the kids, or I'm going to own the house, or, I'm going to get my own back. Now, these are all really firmly rooted in people not having a great deal of self-awareness. As I'm recording this, we've got the Ukraine war going on. Now, I came across a Ukrainian couple, told me the story that the wife knows of a situation where the father is fighting on the Russian side and the son is fighting on the Ukrainian side, and they're texting each other, you know, probably doing their best not to be firing at each other. Now, that war will end sometime. Wars always end eventually. But the emotional damage that's done to that society, that could go on for hundreds of years. There are bitter hatreds that linger in the world because of conflict that go back centuries, and they still are affecting people adversely. The trust and the emotional pain is transferred from parent to child, and child to grandchild, and on down the line. We live in a society that has become very complex, and the need for self-understanding is as great as it's ever been. Now, I'm advocating this technique of close your eyes, relax, and stay awake. It's a simple technique, but there's a massive amount of learning and complexity involved in understanding yourself. We need to spend some time unearthing all of the reasons why our relationships, big and small, why they go wrong. We can no longer live in this tribal attitude, and regardless of what the greater truth of reality might be, we want our lives to be pleasant and satisfying, if at all possible. Now, peace of mind is the beginning of that. Finding contentment within yourself is the beginning of that, because a content person is somebody who has at least come to a reasonably good understanding of themselves. Now, they're able to form good relationships when they encounter other people who also have a good understanding of themselves. It's one way that we can each make this world a better world by understanding ourselves better. So, a bit of a mishmash of a talk there. I found it very hard to actually explain myself. So, apologies if it was a bit of a ramble. But I'm going to continue. There's more to come. See you in the next video.